Hello. Oh, it's been a long time since I've recorded a video, mostly because I just didn't want to record something unless I felt really, truly inspired to share. And for the last couple of days, I've been feeling this desire to share more about my breathwork story, what it is, how it came into my world, and what it is that I do with it and offer. Since I started recording videos, breathwork has come into my life at kind of the perfect time. Probably before I started recording videos was the first time I experienced breathwork, maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago. It had come into my awareness through conversations with friends who had their experiences in holotropic breathwork, and it piqued my interest, but it honestly sounded a little intense for me, and so I was nervous to experience it and kind of put it on the back burner as like, okay, maybe someday I'll try that. Months later, I started investigating a little bit more into different styles of breathwork. I wanted to understand what the differences were, if there was a difference, and just wanted to experience it for myself. And holotropic breathwork, for some reason, just felt like it was a little too intense for me, and so I didn't go that route. I started looking around, and there's so many different styles that I actually felt kind of confused, and I needed a little bit of guidance and wanted somebody to that had some experience in it to help guide me. And I put a post out on Facebook and just asked if anyone knew about the different styles and could tell me about it, because I wanted to experience it. And someone that I am friends with on Facebook, but had actually never met in person because we were in some joint Facebook groups. Her name is Hella Weston. I'm probably slaughtering your name. I'm so sorry. She reached out. She's based in Bali, and she reached out and said that she could take me through a session via Skype. And so I had a lot of trust in her and felt like it was the right place to start. And so we set up a time and a session, and I did it in the comfort of my home. The style that she uses is just a very simple, easy breath in and out. All through the mouth, very similar apparently to rebirthing style, or to transformational breathwork. Transformational breathwork, rebirthing, and the style that my teacher David Elliott also teaches, which he refuses to name, so we just call it breathwork, it can be intense at times, but the breathing itself is not supercharged. It is a little bit lighter and can be intense in moments, but the intention for it is to start to move emotions that we've pushed down for decades for many of us. And that was my experience when I worked in this first session as a client. We had about an hour and a half long session, and about 20 minutes in, started getting a really intense physical sensation. I was very surprised because I thought this very easy breath in and out would not have much of a profound effect. And I was definitely skeptical. And about 20 minutes in, my hands started to tense. I got what's called tetany in my hands, a really intense tightness that turns your hand into a kind of a claw I was unable in that moment to open my hands. tightness through my jaw and through my lips and through my chest and through my abdomen. Like my whole body felt like it was closing in on itself, and it was scary, very scary. Fortunately, I felt in good hands, even though this was a session through Skype. Hele talked me through this and asked me appropriate questions and guided me in a way that I could use the physical sensations that I was having as a tool and as a guide to help me go beyond what's just physically happening in my body and tap into emotions and energy on a deeper level. And so the way that actually came up was I started having memories of my home and the church that I went to and the street that ran in between the two, of when I was like 12, 13 years old, and having memories come up from that period, but mostly emotions, intense sadness, intense anger, emotions that obviously from that period in my life I'd really shoved down. And it was surprising to me because I had gone through therapy. I think I had 3 years of therapy, and I've done many different practices of self-expression, working through things a lot, in like talk therapy, working through things logically, looking back and saying, yes, this is how I felt when I was that age, but not actually being able to have some sort of practice that let me feel those feelings. And so knowing that those feelings are there or that they were there is not the same thing as actually feeling them, letting yourself express them, letting those things come to the surface and letting them out. And so that's what both the practice that I went through with her does, and also the practice that I now am trained in and offer does. But the point from getting to that first session to now where I am is interesting, which is why I wanted to share. So after that session, I thought, okay, that was a profound, intense experience. I had no idea that was going to happen. I'm so glad that it did. I'm so glad that I have that insight for myself of the pain that I was still carrying around and how that affected my daily life currently. And I thought, okay, choo-choo, all right, healed, good. That stuff is done. I don't have to look in my past anymore. I don't have to look at any more pain or repressed emotions. And I kind of went on with my life thinking, whew, glad I did that. And a few months later, 4 or 5 months later, I kept getting the nudge that a friend of mine who's very close to me, through my own kind of free-flowing writing, which I tend to do a lot in the mornings after a meditation. I'll sit and just free write for a while. I kept getting the intuition and the nudge that this friend at that time needed healing. That was the thing that kept coming up, and I was like, I don't even know what that means. And A, I don't know what it means. B, I don't want to tell this person that because I feel that it's rude. And C, what do I do with that information once I tell him? And this happened repeatedly in my writing 4 or 5 times over the course of a couple of weeks. And I thought, okay, I got to do something with this. I don't know what, but maybe I'll suggest to him that I can take him through what Hele took me through and see how it goes. With my limited knowledge, we're close. If something doesn't work for him, fine. If he does have an emotional experience, we're close enough that I feel that I could care for him in that moment. And so, sure enough, we set up the time. He was interested, and we had this very long session, which I don't do now. My sessions now, the actual breathing time is only about 30 minutes. And then there's a lot of care before and after. And so our sessions are like 60 to 75 minutes, but we did over an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 45 minutes of the breathing technique that I had experienced my first time. And he had a very similar experience, not the same type of memories, but the letting go and feeling of intense emotions. For him, I believe it was a lot of self-judgment that he was carrying around, and being able to feel that that was there and express that it was there left him feeling more self-love and self-compassion, and gave him a deeper insight into what's happening internally that we're not always aware of. And I, during that session, intuitively walked around him, placed my hands on his shoulders at different points, comforted him when I felt that he needed it, stepped back so he could have his experience when he needed it. And I was just kind of flowing, and it felt really incredible to be able to be there when someone's having such an intense experience, and to be able to be honoring them in that way by holding space for them. And it felt beautiful and incredible to be able to witness that and to help guide. And after that, a couple of days after, we were talking about it, and he said, as much as that experience was for me, that I believe that it was an initiation for you, meaning me. And I felt that to be true as soon as he said it. It felt like, yes, this is something that I'm called to do, both for myself and to offer to other people. But where do I start? And so my first idea was, okay, I'm gonna look on YouTube at different breathwork meditations and see what comes up. Maybe I'll practice a couple of these different things just from YouTube and see what resonates with me, and kind of take it from there. And so I typed in breathwork meditation, pressed play on the first video that came up, and as I was watching it, the woman that was speaking was very familiar to me. And I knew that I knew her, but I didn't know where, and I was racking my brain for like 3 or 4 minutes, trying to go back in my memory and think, like, who is she? I know her. How do I know her? And then it hit me. Her name is Erin Telford. It hit me that she and I used to party together way back when. In Seattle, we would go to raves and clubs and just like party our faces off. And I hadn't seen her since I was like 19 or 20 years old. We just kind of like went in different directions. First of all, side note, she is incredible, beautiful human being that offers so much love and compassion to the world as a breathwork healer, facilitator, Reiki, acupuncturist, all around incredible, powerful, beautiful woman. So seeing her as the first person that I clicked on, of course you can imagine I had shivers, and I knew that my intuition had been guiding me to the right place. It was like the biggest sign that I could have. Here's someone from your past doing this practice that you haven't seen in over 20 years. So I reached out to her, connected with her, started asking her about her practice and where did she learn, who did she learn from. She learned from David Elliott, who is such an incredible human being himself, and I did some investigating around his trainings and some other people so I could feel like I was doing my due diligence, but really I knew in my heart that I was already being led to him. And I saw that he was doing his weekend-long trainings in LA, and so I signed up for the first one. And it just felt like the natural progression to take that step. I'm just gonna do it and see what happens. So that said, there's probably most of my adulthood, I felt like I've had one foot in the world of mysticism and the other foot in the world of judgment and skepticism. And, it's been a healthy balance, I guess, up until this point. But I knew that signing up for this training, which was called healer training, which still didn't make any sense to me, of feeling like, I'm not a healer. I don't even know what that means. I still, it made me uncomfortable, but I knew that I was stepping into a world that I would be uncomfortable and that it was the right step for me. So anyway, I was going in with this love for mysticism and love for the unseen and love for energy and the emotions and how we're spirits in bodies. What does that all mean? Along with my skeptical, judgmental self walking into this room. And I walked in not knowing anyone, and in a room of about 40 people. And soon my judgments dropped because I realized they were mostly just judgments of myself. I was judging people in the room like crazy. And through the course of that first weekend, I really got to experience my own healing. And that's really what David's trainings are, is a lot of is self-healing so that we can hold the space for other people and be the vessel for other people's healing and transformation. And so there were many experiences. I went to 4 different trainings, completed the 4 different trainings over the course of about 5 months, I believe. And I had some very intense experiences that just helped me shed all of my judgment, helped me shed this kind of self-sabotage and self-judgment that I've been carrying around. And David's teachings are all about self-love and how that heals everything in our lives. And one of the most beautiful experiences that I'll share is in level 2 training. I was used as an example in front of the class so David could take me through a one-on-one session in front of about 50 people in that class. For this particular type of session, which is basically helping to heal pains from childhood or from the past. And so I was laying down in front of all of these people, and in this session, I just dropped down. It's really hard to explain in words that I basically was taken back to about 3 or 4 years old. And I wouldn't say that it was a repressed memory, because I don't have a real specific memory that is tied to this, but emotions were definitely tied to it. And there's some connections that I've made since then that made a lot of sense of like where this pain could come from at 3 or 4 years old. And that pain came up and out, and it was extremely intense physically and emotionally. And at this point, I'm in a subconscious state, so there's no holding back. It's all coming up and out, and witnessed by about 50 people. And after that weekend, I was so thankful for that community of people, because it was one of the first times that I felt such compassion and love and care and non-judgment from that many people in a group environment. So many people were so kind and so honoring of my vulnerability in that session, that I really feel lucky to have been the one that was used as the example. It's still a memory that I'll take with me and cherish. That's kind of a side note. But I finished all 4 levels of this training, and the changes that happened within me during that time are huge. I feel more soft. I feel more open. I have worked through a lot of old ancient fears and pains. And none of that stuff sounds sexy, right? Like, none of that sounds like anyone really wants to sign up to do that work. But I'm telling you that at some point we all have to do it if we want to feel open in our lives. I didn't realize how closed off I was until I let go of some of that shit that I had been holding on to for decades, a lifetime. Which isn't to say that we aren't whole already. It's just to say that there's within all of us something to be healed and something to be expressed, and an openness that we can experience once we shed some of and excavate some of that stuff. So that is my personal experience with the practice. After the first training, we were allowed to work with people one-on-one. And so I started offering that to friends and clients and family members, so I could have the experience of offering that and taking people through it, and sharing this newfound passion that I had for this tool and this practice. And after, I believe it's level 2 or level 3, we're able to take groups through the process. And so I've been, for the last 5 or 6 months, I've been taking individuals and groups through breathwork sessions, and I am so amazed. Every single session that I have is incredible. And all I have to do is sit back and let whatever the person needs come through. It's not coming through me. They are doing the healing themselves. And that's the thing that has become such a, that I've been more comfortable with the word healing, is because I'm not healing anybody. I can call myself a healer, someone else can call me that. It doesn't really matter to me, because what I know is that I'm helping people heal themselves. This is a self-healing practice. They are the ones doing the breathing. They are the ones having their own insights. They are the ones that are experiencing and allowing themselves to move through pain, to move through joy, whatever comes up for them, to experience themselves more fully and to open themselves up and to excavate. That's a word that keeps coming up because that's what it feels like. You're just cleansing, and then you feel like you've cleaned yourself from the inside out. And it's something that I'm so incredibly thankful to have found, and it's a tool in my toolbox, not the only tool that I offer to clients, because still fitness, which has been a part of my life for the last 10 years, fitness I also find so important, movement and being able to physically feel strong or to feel flexible, I find so important. I find breath work helps also physically, helps clear, but mostly emotionally and energetic. It moves energy like crazy. Your body tingles, you feel actual energy viscerally. That's the last session I had. That's what someone said. Like, we know that we're all made of energy, but when you can physically feel energy coursing through you, through your hands, through your chest, through your body, you will never be able to think about yourself in the same way. And so having all of these tools, coaching, meditation, all of these things are now what I feel really empowered by and really excited to offer people. It's what I've been offering a few coaching clients that I'm working with now, and it's what I'm moving towards. I will be closing this lifted studio that I'm in February, which is full circle from when I started my breathwork training, which is very interesting. I will be closing this studio and moving to LA. A lot of changes are happening. I will be sure to express more about those as they come. Within a couple of weeks, I'll have a new website that talks about all of the offerings that I have, including breathwork, and tells a little bit more about my story and of breathwork and what it actually is, what the breathing pattern is. All of that kind of stuff will be on my website, and that will be up soon. And I'm just happy to share all of this with you. I hope that you are having a beautiful day. I hope that this sparks something in you. And if you are interested in learning more about breathwork or experiencing it with me, I do work with people individually, in groups, and remotely through Zoom. So please feel free to reach out if you are also interested in David's teachings. I highly recommend it, and I'm not getting paid to say that. I just have so much love for him and his offerings to the world that I want everyone who's interested to experience it. So please reach out if you have any questions or if this calls to you in some way. And thank you for spending your time with me, and I will talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.